Hello, everyone. Welcome. And I can see some of you joining in. We'll start in few more minutes. Okay. So, before we begin today, I would like you to reflect. Have you ever found that you can probably spend years talking to people every day and still feel like no one truly knows what's happening within you? Mhm. And after a while, even you stop sharing it. Does this feel relatable? Not the version that functions. You stop sharing, not the version that smiles. Even you not do not stop sharing the version that says, I'm fine, I have got it, everything is okay. I mean, the real version of you, the part that sometimes overthinks, sometimes feels deeply, sometimes gets hurt, or maybe feels uncertain. You need reassurance for something, or say, quietly struggle emotionally. And over the last few days, as we have been understanding how emotional patterns form, which is very important, why people suppress emotions, what are and why people please, why there are some emotional overfunction, why certain environments drain them, right? All of these were crucial elements. And today, we are going into something one more layer deeper. Why being truly seen feels emotionally uncomfortable for so many people. Because for many individuals, vulnerability does not feel safe. It feels kind of risk, it feels risky, it feels exposing, it also feels emotionally dangerous. Many of you won't accept or acknowledge, however, this do exist. And most people don't even realize this. Like I said, they do it like it comes to them automatically. Sometimes the fear is not rejection itself, the fear is being fully seen and still not feeling accepted. So, before we begin, I want you to quietly reflect on this question. What part of yourself do you hide most often around people? So, we'll begin now. And let's start with something most people rarely slow down enough to notice. You know, sometimes the people closest to us still don't fully know what's happening within us, isn't it? Have you ever felt deeply connected to someone, yet still held parts of yourself back emotionally? Maybe you wanted to say, I'm struggling, I'm hurt, I need support. This affected me so much. Yet instead, you stayed composed. You minimized it. You changed the topic. You handled it alone. And what's interesting is many people are not afraid of talking. That's the real part. They're afraid of emotional exposure of it. Afraid that if people truly see their emotions, their fears, their insecurities, their needs, their sensitivity, they may no longer feel accepted or they will be judged. And this creates something very exhausting internally. People start performing emotional safety instead of experiencing emotional safety. They act like that's okay, everything is fine. They become the stronger one, the composed one, the helper, the emotionally mature one. And while hiding the parts of themselves that feel emotionally vulnerable. And neuroscience now shows something very important. The human brain experiences social rejection and emotional shame in ways very similar to physical pain. Right. I can understand this. I see people writing, yes, I'm afraid of emotional exposure. Agreed. You know, why I say that this has been uh, proved that whatever social rejection or emotional pain that you face, that's similar to physical pain. Have you ever realized that sometimes you feel so much, um, certain things hurt you so much, and you will suddenly feel that on, inside your body, somewhere you will feel that moment appearing, like sudden chest pain, heaviness in the chest, right? And the challenge is you can't share because you don't, or you are afraid of the emotional exposure. And this means your nervous system does not treat emotional exposure casually. Hence, so for many people, hiding becomes protection. And many people don't hide their emotions because they have nothing to feel or they stopped feeling their emotions. They hide because being emotionally open once came with deep pain. People start labeling that you are exaggerating, you have some issues with you, you're thinking too much. And today we are going to understand why vulnerability feels uncomfortable, how shame patterns develop, why people hide part of themselves emotionally, and how emotional safety allows authenticity to emerge naturally. And if you ever felt emotionally guarded around people, stay with me today till the end of the session. And for those who are joining me for the first time, hi, I'm Ashita Bakchi. I'm a life coach specializing in emotional intelligence, a counseling psychologist, a DMIT counselor, and I also work with healing practices like pranic healing, Reiki, and crystal healing. And most of my work really focuses on helping people understand the emotional conditioning and the nervous system patterns that quietly shape shape your entire life, rather your confidence, your emotional expression, your relationships, your self-worth. Self-worth is highly important. I can actually take an entire session on self-worth and their connection with themselves. Because many people appear emotionally functional externally, yet internally, they are constantly filtering themselves emotionally. Yes, they are doing it. They overthink how they are perceived, they hide what they truly feel, they fear being misunderstood, they fear being too much or not enough. Like I said, right, we often get fear to be labeled. And over time this creates emotional disconnection, and because it becomes difficult to feel deeply connected to others when you do not feel emotionally safe being fully yourself. And that's why today's conversation matters deeply, because emotional intelligence is not just understanding emotions, it's also creating enough internal safety to stop hiding yourself emotionally. So, I'm able to talk about this more because there was a period in my life when I realized something very subtle, something very simple about myself. Like, I had become extremely expert in appearing emotionally calm, composed. Like, I could support people, I could guide people. And that's been from my probably from my college days. I could hold space emotionally for others. And naturally, people saw me as emotionally strong. Yet, underneath that, I noticed something I rarely admitted to myself. There were parts of me I kept hidden emotionally. Not because I was being dishonest, however, because vulnerability felt uncomfortable. It often says that if you are emotionally intelligent, or if you are supporting someone emotionally, does that make you immune to emotions? Does that make you stone that, okay, you won't be bothered no matter what happens? And that thought actually came to me. I felt that, okay, I noticed that when I was emotionally affected, I would process it privately. When I needed most, support, I would minimize it, rather completely ignore it. When I felt emotionally overwhelmed, I would still try to appear stable externally. And that's when, with my learning, I asked myself a difficult question. Why is it easier for me to support others emotionally than to fully allow myself to be emotionally seen? Emotionally supporting others doesn't mean you become immune or hide. And that question changed something deeply within me. I realized that somewhere along the way, I had unconsciously associated emotional vulnerability with emotional risk, like risk of being misunderstood, being judged, appearing weak, that's or emotionally burdening others. That was the biggest concern then. I didn't want it to bother others. And because of that, I stayed emotionally self contained. And that piles up, when you start doing that for a long period, that piles up. And that becomes your automatic response that we already learned in the previous sessions, right? And yet, what I slowly understood through deeper emotional work was this: true emotional strength is not emotional hiding, it is emotional safety. It's all about feeling safe, emotionally safe. And slowly I began allowing myself to become more emotionally honest. I am human. I can have my downtime, right? I can have situations where things doesn't go as per the plan, and that can impact me. And yes, I learned to overcome that. And I began allowing myself to become more emotionally honest, not with everyone. You don't need to be. However, in safe and healthy spaces, this is also important. You can be an open book to the place where it's healthy, it's safe. I learned how to express emotions without shame, how to ask for support without guilt, how to stop performing emotional perfection. And that changed my emotional peace, my relationship, my nervous system, and the depth of connection I experienced with people. You cannot feel deeply connected while hiding emotionally, while constantly hiding yourself emotionally. And we are going to learn about this. What is vulnerability, shame, and the nervous system? So, the point number one, vulnerability activates the nervous system. Now, let's understand this scientifically. The human nervous system is deeply rational. We are biologically wired for connection, acceptance, belonging, emotional safety. And because of this, the brain constantly monitors how we are perceived, whether we are accepted, and whether emotional exposure feels safe. This is why vulnerability can feel physically uncomfortable. When someone becomes emotionally open, the nervous system may activate stress responses like anxiety, overthinking, self protection, or emotional withdrawal. Not because vulnerability is wrong, however, because the nervous system is trying to protect against the emotional pain that they have gone through previously. Hence, being emotional open can feel unsafe when the nervous system associate the visibility with some kind of rejection, some kind of pain, some kind of, you know, judgment, or, like s- people being judged, right? That's where they don't feel like opening up. Second part is shame patterns. They teach people to hide themselves. Now, this part is very important. Why? Because shame is not simply guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, something is wrong with me. That's a big difference. And when people repeatedly experience those criticism in every step, emotional invalidation in every moment, comparison, mocking, rejection, rejecting your emotions, or emotional dismissal completely, the nervous system starts adapting. It learns, let's hide this part. It will learn that let's hide this part. Don't express too much. Don't be too emotional. Stay composed. Don't let people see you struggling. That was the worst thing. And over time, these become emotional survival patterns. And so many people stop expressing their needs, their emotions, their truth, their sensitivity, not because those parts disappeared. However, because hiding them once felt emotionally safer. Many people are not disconnected from themselves, they are disconnected from the part of themselves they learned were unsafe to reveal. Does this make sense? Are you able to relate with the events? Or are you able to understand so that we don't repeat that patterns? And the third point, emotional safety changes everything. And this is why I always talk about emotional safety matters deeply. When the nervous system feels emotionally safe, people naturally become more open, more authentic, more expressive, and more emotionally connected. And let me share an example. In relationships where people feel safe, emotionally safe, they are much more emotionally connected because they feel that your trouble is understood. You can express freely. You can be your authentic self. You are not labeled or judged for being sensitive. Does that resonate? And the nervous system feels emotionally safe not because they force vulnerability, however, because the body no longer feels the need to constantly protect itself. Because I just explained you with the reason, right? They don't have to hide in the relationship, they don't have to think twice before discussing. They talk empathetically to each other, not with sharp tone that feels helpless. And healing often begins here when you stop judging the parts of yourself you have been hiding. And authenticity grows in spaces where the nervous system feels safe enough to stop performing. Now, today, I want you to gently become aware of something within yourself. So, as in every session, we end the session with some kind of an exercise, like the practice that you can do during these events. I want you to gently become aware of the current environment, take a safe space, uh, don't do it in a rush, make yourself extremely comfortable, spine erect, and then once you're comfortable, just close your eyes and take one slow, deep breathe in and exhale slowly, a bit longer. One more deep breathe in and exhale slowly, a bit longer. And now think about the version of yourself most people see. And then quietly ask yourself, what parts of myself do I hide most often? Maybe that's your emotions. Maybe your sensitivity, your fears, your emotional needs, your uncertainty, your sadness, your softness. Just notice what comes up. And now ask yourself something deeper. When did I learn this part of me was unsafe to show? Was it through judgment? Was it through some kind of rejection? Maybe criticism? Or was it through some kind of comparison? Or through feeling understood, misunderstood? And Gently place your hand on your heart and silently say to yourself, I do not need to reject parts of myself to feel accepted. My emotions do not make me weak. I deserve spaces where I can exist authentically and safely. Now, take one deeper breath in and then gently exhale. With another deep breath in, just notice what shifts within you and exhale. Bring your awareness to the current moment and take another round of deep breath in and exhale slowly. You can open your eyes now. How does that feel? Feel free to put it in chat. I would love to read them. And with this, ensure you practice this daily from today. Notice moments where you automatically hide, shrink, filter yourself, or emotionally perform. And instead of judging yourself, besides others judging you, instead of you judging yourself, simply become aware. Because awareness is what creates emotional safety within. And it's very important being authentic. You need not hide yourself. Healing begins when you stop treating your authentic self like something that needs to be hidden. You don't have to hide yourself anymore. And I want to leave you with this today. You were never meant to spend your life emotionally performing for acceptance. It's not needed. And emotional intelligence is not becoming emotionally perfect. It is becoming emotionally honest with yourself, more aware. Because the deepest emotional exhaustion often comes from constantly filtering yourself, hiding yourself, or trying to remain emotionally acceptable all the times. And if today's session made you realize how much of yourself you have been suppressing emotionally, and if you have been struggling with fear of vulnerability, emotional hiding, people pleasing, fear of rejection, difficulty in expressing emotions, or feeling disconnected from yourself, I do offer discovery sessions where I help people understand their emotional patterns, their nervous system responses, their shame conditioning, and how to build emotional shift safety within themselves. I always say this, there is no pressure at all. It's just a safe space between you and me where you no longer have to carry everything alone or hide who you truly are emotionally. The sessions are always confidential. And if you feel called, you can message me seen or explore the link in the description where you can use to book the session. And remember, the goal is not to become fearless emotionally. Not at all. The goal is to become safe enough within yourself that you no longer need to hide who you are. With this, I would like to end the session. I don't see any more questions. I hope this session was useful, and thank you so much for being here today. See you tomorrow.